This is the Media Police Post from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, in the words of Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil, and for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test. Two, another confirmed truth is that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground truth. We will monitor columnists, we will assess the state of truth and what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists, we are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free. On today's show, we will discuss either our favorite columns of last week or columns which reflect unformed and uninformed opinions, and columns that made you stupid. These are columns that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are and not as they are, or that are based on conjuncture history, and lastly, ones that smack of envelope journalism. Welcome to 2M and CS. What will we be reviewing today?
Absolutely, asante sana. Now, William RUTO spent his entire weekend butchering the lovely science of economics. He hosted a voodoo economist, David Day, and a few gamer turncoats and tasked them with coming up with an economic model for hustlers. This model he called bottom-up economics. Now, we have a feeling that RUTO does not understand this bottom-up economics approach, and because of that, we will take him to school. Now, bottom-up economics is also known as the trickle-up effect or the fountain effect. The man behind this concept is the famous monetarist John Maynard Keynes, and the central thesis of this concept is economic progression driven by the middle class through fiscal and monetary interventions. For example, if the government wants to spur up spending by the middle class, they cut taxes, they cut interest rates, and increase government spending. Producers are incentivized to produce, banks are incentivized to lend, factories are incentivized to hire, all done through targeting a specific economic class of people. Everybody wins. What are we telling RUTO without telling him? Is that his plan to spur up the economy at the Walalahoi level using the bottom-up approach is theoretically flawed. It is dead on arrival. The masses alone are incapable of spurring economic growth. And we know he knows this. I mean, how can a whole deputy not know his theoretical grounding is wrong? A man with a PhD, albeit it's in plant science. In our view, bottom-up economics is a decoy. Talking about it is a total waste of time. What we should focus on is how a whole deputy president can have a parallel process to his boss. How can a whole deputy go against his own government economic policy and introduce his own? How can RUTO chair a meeting that discusses the return of Kibakinomics and yet he is serving under Uhuru Kenyatta? How can RUTO go peddling the Sputnik vaccine narrative and yet there is an entire government vaccination policy? Hii ni tabia mbovu, total rebellion by RUTO, total classless behavior. I mean, by the time RUTO picks an accountant called David Day as an advisor, a man who has publicly advised RUTO to murder his boss, it tells you RUTO's intentions are devious. This is a man who has contemplated everything. The question to you Kenyans is this: if this is how he behaves as deputy president, how will he behave as president? Is RUTO fit to rule this country?
Perish the thought.
Yeah, wow. And Kenyans ought to ask themselves, what is realistically achievable? What is this miracle that he's now touting that he didn't give his boss?
Absolutely.
So today I'd like to reflect on Uhuru's political order. We know that at no time, whether under Jomo Kenyatta or Moi, did State House rely exclusively on one strategy for securing political order. Jomo favored a loosely organized dominant party. Moi opted to eliminate competition and strengthen party discipline. On Uhuru's part, he seems to have allowed conditions that gave rise to a countervailing power, a rogue group like RUTO's that is simultaneously independent and part of government. But I don't think this was a flaw in the design. I posit that Uhuru is using the art of compromise. So economist Donald Whitman observed, good politicians create coalitions and find acceptable compromises. Compromise is in the DNA of the Jubilee government. It has been instrumental in shifting towards a compromise of shared sovereignty between the national and county governments. In the run-up to 2022, political leaders are confronted with a dilemma. They have to win cooperation and build alliances. And to do so, they need to have a variety of incentives and disincentives at their disposal. So when BBI passes, Uhuru will have handed them a perfect bargaining tool. It will accommodate an institutional design for political behavior that is based on incentives. So as we see Raila, RUTO, Mudavadi, etc. carry out their activities, it is the process. Even Gideon Moi meeting with the diplomatic corps whilst having a strange meeting in a dodgy space with Moses Kuria this weekend is also part of the process. It is a process of elimination till the fittest is found. However, someone will inevitably end up with the short end of the stick.
Right.
Now, this is what is called the greater fool theory. So in economics, when you hold an investment and you cannot make any more money out of it, you look for a greater fool to sell your investment.
Yes.
Someone buys the asset from you thinking that they can perhaps make more money than you did.
Yes.
The investment keeps changing hands with higher valuation till the last person cannot make money from the investment.
Yes.
That person is the greatest fool.
Kabisa.
I posit that the person that avoids being the greatest fool will be the one who understands the craft of power best. The one who will feel the rhythm of the times best. The one who won't just pander to populism.
Absolutely.
I like that. Now, I want to talk about my favorite topic.
BBI?
BBI. The rationale behind the proposed 70 constituencies. Now, given the prevailing discourse in the country, there are some words that are now in vogue, but I fear some of these are being used in ways and by people who don't know what the words mean, but in some disturbing instances, even by people who really should know better. For instance, in the past few weeks, the word unconstitutional has been butchered almost beyond recognition. But I've also realized that in some cases, it isn't as a result of ignorance, it is deliberate intellectual dishonesty. When they say the 70 additional constituencies are unconstitutional, what they actually mean to say is that it is unfair, that 28 counties are getting more constituencies. Not only is it intellectually dishonest, it is also populist reasoning, that if we are not getting, then others shouldn't get. That if they're getting more, we should get as many. This is a case of people not thinking about country, but are instead inciting sentiments to advance their personal political agendas. So let us speak truth to ignorance. The 70 additional constituencies are meant to correct at least three things. Number one, unfairness in resource allocation. Number two, underrepresentation. And thirdly, to as best as possible ensure equality of the vote. The 70 constituencies are neither gifts nor favors. They've been arrived at through a formula. When you look at the 2019 census, which pegged total population at around 47.6 million people, if you divide that by the existing 290 constituencies, every constituency should have roughly 164,000 people, with some room for variations. This is not the case as things stand. There are counties like Lamu, which has 16 people per kilometer squared and has two constituencies with a total population of 144,000. That is 70,000 people per constituency. Wajir and Garissa, which have 300,000 people each, have 6 MPs each. That is 50,000 people per constituency. Compare that with Nairobi, which has 6,200 people per kilometer squared, with a population of 4.3 million people and the existing 18 constituencies. That means you have roughly 240,000 people per constituency. For every Kenyan in Wajir that an MP represents, an MP in Nairobi is representing about 5 Kenyans. The effect is gross disproportions in representation, resource allocation, and equality of the vote. It means a Kenyan in Nairobi has to make do with less than a fifth of what a fellow Kenyan in Garissa is allocated, or less than a third of what a Kenyan in Lamu is allocated in terms of resources. It also means that the votes that MPs have in parliament have significant variances in how they are weighted. This is what the 70 new constituencies are meant to correct. You cannot in good conscience argue that Kamenu Ward in Thika, which has about 50,000 people, should be represented by an MCA, while Garissa Township is represented by the former leader of majority in parliament. You cannot in good conscience argue that Wajir with 300,000 people should have 6 MPs, while Mombasa with 1.3 million people should also have 6 MPs, yet it has 1 more million Kenyans. Forget the people being dishonest and pretending things are unconstitutional. We are talking simple math and fairness. That is why the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has observed that Nairobi is underrepresented and should in fact have 33 constituencies instead of the current 18. So when you hear the likes of Erongo Kangata saying that they are opposing the 17 new constituencies because they are fighting for a higher moral ideal, please ask him which shop on River Road he purchased his morals from. He's owed a refund.
Immediately. So thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. Columnists, people, we're putting you on notice. Join us next week.
Absolutely. God bless.